Hey, what's up, everyone? Thank you so much for checking out another video here on Show Style and Spirit. That was just like the garbage bag just dropping over, if you could hear that. But in any event, thank you so much for checking out this video. If you're checking out the replay or if anyone does join me during this live, thank you so much. Please hit the like button just so that YouTube will recommend this video to other people. Also, please subscribe to my channel if you have not already done so. I am Ebony, of course. And I was actually inspired by a recent interview with Latoya Luckett. You know, she is the singer, the actress. She was on the show Greenleaf. She did an amazing job. Greenleaf was such an awesome show. But of course, Latoya Luckett, we were first introduced to her as a member of Destiny's Child. So I want to actually share a clip before I get into my slideshow on various groups that have broken up. I actually do want to play this clip from her where she is actually talking about, groups not being able to stick together. So I want to go ahead and jump in and show you all this clip. So let's go ahead and
Xscape is being honored with the Lady of Soul Award tonight. You know, they are the second girl group to receive that award. SWV got it first. Being as though you were in an amazing girl group, Destiny's Child, why is it that you think we don't see as many girl groups today?
I think the budgets at the labels. No, I'm playing. I think for several reasons. And I miss it. I will have to say that you're not the only one to notice that. I was like, where the groups at? I mean, it's harder, I think, too, to keep people together. You know, I think once people realize, oh, you know, I have my own talent, I want to be solo or whatever. You know, it's tough to find people that want to come together and create a beautiful experience for others and stay together. So I don't know if it's a budget thing. I don't know if it's I'm me, myself, and I moment where they just want to, you know, be able to do their own thing and they realize their own talents. But either way, I mean, you see what happened with Destiny's Child. Everybody was able to go out on their own. Beyonce is an icon all by herself. Kelly Rowland does her own thing. I do my own thing. Tavia, Michelle Williams. Like, some greats have come out of these groups. But I do miss the girl group, guy group, Boys to Men, Jodeci moments. Can we bring them back?
Xscape is being honored with the Lady of Soul Award tonight.
Okay, so as you can see, you see why I definitely wanted to talk about this topic. So I was just so inspired. Let me stop sharing that screen because I am going to go ahead and go into my slideshow. So, of course, as you can see, I named this video Breaking the Band because you may remember the MTV show that was spearheaded by Diddy called Making the Band, where people would audition for Diddy and he would actually put people together. Remember Da Band with the singer Sarah Stokes, who is from the Detroit area. There were lots of different rappers in the band, including like Babs. Then there was also the guy who got busted for human trafficking earlier this year. But in any event, that is the history behind Making the Band, Breaking the Band. So let's go ahead and let's jump right in. And Latoya Luckett, actually mentioned some bands that we're going to be talking about tonight, but she was absolutely right when she said, you know, some people discover their talent and their musical strengths, and then they may want to break away from the group that they started out with. We're going to talk about that. So let's jump right in. I was busy today. I was able to make some notes, but let's just go right ahead. So, of course, Latoya Luckett was a member of the iconic Destiny's Child. As we know, that was the roots for Beyonce and her amazing career. And Destiny's Child actually started out as Girls' Time when they were children. And then later on, when they were ready to switch their name, Beyonce's mom, Tina Knowles, said that she was reading a Bible verse and noticed the word destiny, and it really spoke to her. And then she came up with Destiny's Child. Well, major trouble started out for Destiny's Child once Latavia and Latoya wanted their own manager separate from Beyonce's dad, Matthew Knowles. So Matthew Knowles, he wasn't having it. He wasn't going to deal with the drama. And he actually replaced Latavia and Latoya with Michelle Williams and Farrah. As we know, Farrah did not remain in Destiny's Child long at all. I don't even think she was with the group a year, but Michelle Williams did stick. But the new members made their debut in the Say My Name video, and it was such a shock to fans. I can remember being in my dorm room at Michigan State, watching the Say My Name video, and all of the fans, regardless of race, black, white, we were all confused, like, who are these two girls? And it was Farrah and it was Michelle. So the way that Beyonce and her dad orchestrated it, the Say My Name video came out. All the fans were confused, and then they explained that they replaced Latoya and Latavia with Michelle and Farrah. And so with the fans, we did not see Latoya and Latavia as expendable as Beyonce and her dad did. And don't get me wrong, I am a Beyonce fan. I have so much of her music, her solo music and Destiny's Child music. But it was just a shock. We didn't like how Latoya and Latavia just seemed to be thrown away like with yesterday's trash. So it was kind of a turnoff. But, you know, eventually we did accept Michelle Williams, you know, whatever. Their music was still hot, but it was still like, well, damn, you know? But I remember Matthew Knowles doing interviews. I remember him saying to MTV, pretty much making light of the replacements, saying that the Temptations had 17 members. It was some number, it was very high. And I'm going to talk about the Temptations in this video. But he pretty much was saying, like, this is just the way things are. It's normal. It's common for musical groups to replace some members. Now, this was actually a clear case of nepotism. That is in my notes. You know, nepotism is when a person of power hires their friends and their relatives to work for them and be in their inner circle. And Beyonce really had the hookup. She had the favor of her parents, not only their love and adoration as her parents, but as her manager and her stylist. So they pretty much always set her up to have the solos, to be in the limelight, to look great, and to get whatever she wanted. And in my opinion, unfortunately, it was kind of unrealistic for Latoya and Latavia to expect the record label, media outlets, any companies that would want to do endorsements with Destiny's Child. It was kind of unrealistic for the ladies to think that all those different outlets would deal with two managers, Matthew Knowles and then another manager. I think that they pretty much probably made a mistake when they decided to try and hire another manager. If anything, Latoya and Latavia, maybe they should have gone to Columbia Records or something and issued a complaint that way. They should have tried to find someone at the record label to advocate for them versus bringing like an outsider in. Remember like the early Destiny's Child records, they would always do like a tribute to Miss, what's her name? Ann Tillman. I just remember last name Tillman. This just hit me just now. Like Miss Tillman was like Destiny's Child's manager, but she got sick and passed away, unfortunately. And then I think Matthew Knowles kind of stepped into her shoes, if I'm remembering correctly. But in any event, I think that Latoya and Latavia, they probably should have tried to go through the record label to complain about Mr. Knowles versus just bringing in a second manager. That was pretty much what did it for them, unfortunately. Now, we did later see, you know, Latavia on R&B Divas, and she did struggle allegedly with alcoholism and I think drug abuse. So we have not, I don't remember ever hearing any music from Latavia. As you know, Latoya, she has had some great music. I was just listening to Regret last night after seeing that interview that I played with her. I was playing Regret. And of course, she was on Greenleaf. She was on T.I. and Tiny's reality TV show. So we have seen Latoya. You can also tell that she is satisfied with her life and career because she propped out Beyonce, called her an icon. And I remember there was a time where it did not seem like Latoya and Latavia would ever do that. So that's how you know that Latoya has like healed from the past and she has no hard feelings. So next we have In Vogue. Now I had to write down my notes, honey. I remember hearing that there was like drama, between the groups, and I'm going to talk about that. So the legal drama. So let's jump right in. Now, this is an incredible singing group. Their vocal capabilities are just bananas. In Vogue, they were actually put together by a music producer duo, Foster and McElroy, in 1988. So Foster and McElroy are two producers. They actually audition singers from all over the country, and these women are from various states. I know that Terry Ellis is from Texas. I believe Maxine Jones, she is from like the East Coast or a sort of Midwest, like where I'm from, but they're from all over, and they were put together. And I don't know about personally, but obviously vocally they meshed. And it was just a match made in heaven. In Vogue's debut album, Born to Sing, came out in 1990 with their first single, Hold On. Hold on to your love. I remember that song. It's so good. In Vogue has sold more than 30 million records. They've recorded 4 albums. Their biggest was their first 2, like the most popular, Born to Sing and Funky Divas. Funky Divas, what was amazing about it was by the time they recorded Funky Divas, they were like pop stars. MTV played In Vogue videos a lot from that Funky Divas album. With My Lovin', You're Never Gonna Get It. And they had the song, it was like a rock song. And it was basically about racism and sexism. Oh my gosh, I have to like look that record up. I can't think about it right now. If you can remember, definitely put it in the comments. Please comment on my videos. I don't really get a lot of that. And anyway, the original members of In Vogue, I'm going to say them from left to right. Dawn Robinson. Dawn Robinson was the main like soloist from In Vogue. She sang a lot of the solo parts, but then we heard all of their voices, especially Terry Ellis, and Maxine Jones did get one solo song on Funky Divas. It was Give It Up, Turn It Loose. But anyway, you have Dawn Robinson on the left. Next to her is Terry Ellis. Then you have who's kind of laying in the front is Maxine Jones. I believe she has like really thin, like zillion braids. And then you have Cindy Herron. If you remember the movie Juice with Omar Epps and Tupac, I love Juice. Cindy Herron was in Juice. She played a nurse who was the girlfriend to Omar Epps. Now, this was something that was really not said about Juice, but wasn't it like Cindy Herron, her character was a nurse, so obviously she had gone to college, graduated, she was at least in her mid-20s, and she was dating like Omar Epps' character, who must have been about 17, 18 years old, but whatever. Nobody really seemed to care. But anyway, Dawn left the group and went to Lucy Pearl with Raphael Sadiq. Remember, Lucy Pearl recorded a song that was on the Love and Basketball soundtrack. Oh my gosh, I love that movie too. And, allegedly, the information that I looked up, Dawn left In Vogue, but like her reputation was kind of put out there that she was put out of In Vogue, that she was put out of Lucy Pearl, but that's all alleged. I don't even know how true that is. I just remember that Dawn Robinson was on R&B Divas and Lil Mo cursed her out. Now, I am not for anybody being disrespected or mistreated, but Lil Mo cursed her out. And then at the end, she was like, you ain't even saved. It was just hilarious. I don't give it justice. If that clip is on YouTube, I have to try and look it up. It was hilarious. Lil Mo and Dawn Robinson on R&B Divas. Okay, so then in 1995, Cindy and Maxine had babies and they went on maternity leave. So remember, Cindy was in Juice and Maxine is the one kind of in the front laying across with like the zillion braids. That's her. They had babies in 1995. And during that time, Terry Ellis recorded her solo album in 1995. She had that song, Wherever You Are. Mm-hmm. I can't think of the words right now, probably because I'm live, and it's kind of like a little nerve-wracking, but I love her music too. It was very beautiful. Terry Ellis really didn't blow up, but I remember that music. It was really nice. Just like soft ballads with her beautiful, perfect vocals on top. It was very nice. So I want to fast forward. So there were times like they recorded 4 albums, right? So the last 2 weren't as popular as Born to Sing and Funky Divas. They also recorded a song, Don't Let Go, for Set It Off. And the information that I looked up, Don't Let Go, it charted really well. It was a hit. I love the record. And it was very popular. Like the single itself sold like 1.8 million copies. So that's really amazing. And then they pretty much would just kind of link back together for performances and reunion tours. And they would talk about getting back together and recording new music, but then they just couldn't really like get along. And then Maxine, she decided to start her own version of En Vogue called En Vogue to the Max in 2013. So let me say this. In the midst of them kind of coming back together for performances, you mainly have Terry Ellis and Cindy with a third singer as En Vogue or EV3. I remember them promoting themselves as like EV3. Dawn is totally out the picture by now. We're in the mid 2000s. And then you have Max forming her own En Vogue group, En Vogue to the Max. So there's like 2 En Vogues touring. Now that happened with the Temptations as well. We are going to get to that. So Terry Ellis and Cindy actually took Maxine to court, and a judge ruled that Maxine did not get permission to use the term En Vogue. And the judge ruled that Cindy and Terry had exclusive rights to the name. So Maxine obviously is on the outs with Cindy and Terry. I'm sure they're probably not even on speaking terms after they took her to court. It's really, really sad because from the fans' perspective, you just love the music, right? You love seeing the singers all together. They mesh vocally. They create musical magic. So you hate to see that they don't get along. It's even with actors like the Sex and the City cast, Kim Cattrall and Sarah Jessica Parker. They cannot stand each other. That's why, we did not see Kim Cattrall in the reboot of Sex and the City on HBO Max. And it's just really a disservice to the fans. It's unfair to us. But, these people, like, if they can't get along, I guess they just can't get along. It's just like on our W-2 jobs. You may have coworkers that you really don't fuck with, and it's the same thing for the singing groups. So I want to make sure, yes, I talked everything about En Vogue. So next we have Xscape. So Xscape, is one of my faves. I love this group. I love their sound, the R&B sound. And, we have Tasha, Candy, T.I.'s wife, Tiny, and Tamika. There's a couple of things unique about Xscape. Number one, although they have not done like a studio album in about 20 years, they are still very visible and very, people know them. They're still very famous, largely due to Candy being on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. I believe that Candy is very smart at reinventing herself and keeping herself relevant. She did an interview about a year ago where she did say that the Real Housewives of Atlanta and its popularity has introduced her to, a younger generation of people who might not have known her had they not seen her on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. But anyway, I want to focus on Xscape. So another thing that is unique about Xscape is that they have actually never replaced members. In fact, in the 90s, when record labels were putting girls out of singing groups for getting pregnant, Xscape actually band together when Tamika, who is in the front, she's kind of like looking down, she's Tasha's sister. Tamika had gotten pregnant, and the record label tried to kick Tamika out and replace her. And the other 3 members of Xscape banded together and said, no, if you kick her out, we're done. And the record label kept her in. Now, that is an awesome example of unity. I feel like, in my opinion, the Black race, we really struggle to unify. We oftentimes kind of look for a reason to be adversarial with each other and be divided. But in that moment, Xscape, all the members were on the same page, and they would not let the record label put Tamika out. And I thought that that was awesome. Now, there were some more issues, though. So Xscape began having problems by their third album, Traces of My Lipstick. I love Traces of My Lipstick. It came out between like the late 90s and the early 2000s. It had the song My Little Secret. So it was really great. And basically, what happened was Tasha had lost a significant amount of weight. This is my opinion, and it's alleged. Tasha lost a significant amount of weight. She was feeling herself as she should. She should have been proud of herself, but she felt like she had pretty much graduated from Xscape, the group, and she wanted to go solo. And back then, Tasha and her sister Tamika were such a cohesive unit that Tamika never called Tasha out on any diva behavior that allegedly she may have shown. And I for one do not agree with you should just necessarily uphold a family relative in their wrongness just because the two of you are related. I don't think that's a strong enough reason when right is right and wrong is wrong 24/7. But anyway, back then it was pretty much Candy and Tiny versus Tasha and Tamika. And also to add to that, Tamika actually did a radio interview where she said that Candy slept with Jermaine Dupri to get solo records on their albums. And then that's when Candy was done. She left the group. She signed away her rights to ever use Xscape. So like going back to En Vogue, where you had Maxine creating her En Vogue to the Max group with two women. And then you have Cindy and Terry Ellis and a third person, both touring as En Vogue. Candy has signed away her rights to where she would never be able to form an Xscape group and tour. So she was just too outdone after Tamika did that. And Tamika even said, and I remember this from their Unsung, Tamika even said that Candy's mom, Mama Joyce, called her and cursed her out and threatened, I guess, to whoop her ass, But yeah, don't get on a live radio interview and try to embarrass Candy and put her business out there. That wasn't cool at all. Obviously, Candy has forgiven Tamika, because they have done the Great Escape tour back in 2017. It was enormously popular. And, they have done their reality TV show. StreamYard, they are like giving these signals. I hope that I hope my audio doesn't sound modulated, like really slow or weird. But StreamYard keeps popping up this little signal as if it's struggling to come in clearly. But, what can we do? So then we have 112. So 112, they're pretty much split in two in terms of who works with who. So you have Slim. I'm not 100% sure of the two pairs. I don't think that Slim and the guy that's to his right, all the way to the right, I know that he was in A Mother's Love, Candy's play years ago. I don't think he's with Slim. I think they're on opposite ends. But 112, they take each other to court because there's like two different 112 groups that tour now. As you know, 112, they were on Bad Boy Records. Diddy signed them. They are from Georgia. They're from the South. They had great R&B music. I love Cupid. That was a slow song, a ballad. And they would do like, what was that dance like you would be like? It was like a something bounce. They would always do that in their videos. They had like Only You, then the Only You remix with Biggie, and then they had Anywhere. We can do it anywhere. I can love you in the shower. Both of our bodies dripping wet. That video looked like they had live strippers in that video. It looked like they had rented, or I don't know what kind of setting it was. Some scenes look like they were at a house, and then other scenes look like maybe they were at a strip club, but those look like straight up strippers that were in the video. But anyway, 112, they have broken up. There's like two different 112s. They take each other to court. I remember reading that around the time that they had their versus battle versus Jagged Edge, the horrible audio problems during their versus battle. It looked like they literally had like a tape cassette player playing their music and they were trying to sing over it. And it was just horrible audio. Oh my gosh, it just seems so low budget. Both groups. But anyway, that's when I learned that 112, they don't really get along and they've taken each other to court. It's so sad. So then I wanted to show the Supremes. Now, time had gotten away from me, so I don't have like the notes written out. But of course, as you know, this is from the hugely important historical Motown era in Detroit. And the Supremes group is one of the groundbreaking groups from the 1960s. And we have Diana Ross, who went on to have a successful solo career and movie career. And you know that one of the members, Florence, I believe, she actually passed away. So I started reading up on them last night, and I was not able to write out all of my notes. I was doing the slideshow in the thumbnail. I do apologize. But it was always rumored that she was pretty much put out of the group because she was the thickest. She was gaining weight. And really, like the execs, which would have been Berry Gordy, like they really did not favor her, and they did kick her out of the group. And then she was poor after that. She may have struggled with substance abuse. Meanwhile, Motown just replaced her. And then you had Diana Ross's solo career that catapulted. Kind of like what happened with Destiny's Child. It was the same exact thing that was set off with the Supremes. So it's kind of like really unfair, but that's even the corporate work example. Like, you know, when they're just ready to push you out, they'll just make it very uncomfortable, very disrespectful until you leave. And that's what the music industry seems to be as well, unfortunately. But they are iconic, the Supremes. Diana Ross is still with us, and she has a family, and she looks amazing from the last time that I remember seeing her. I remember like she turned 75, and Beyonce sang to her at her birthday. So, you know, she is a legend, and that's something that we can't take away from her. But it does suck that the member of the Supremes was kind of kicked out, like she was nobody. Then we have the Temptations. So I have a couple of slides on them. Now, I love the Temptations. I'm the baby of a large family. My parents had me in their 40s. So I'm a late baby. So I heard the blues records and I heard the Temptations. And by having older siblings, I even heard like the later Temptation groups in the 90s and their music. So I'm quite familiar. But we have Melvin Franklin, and the gentleman in the middle from the left to the right with the glasses is David Ruffin. Then we have Otis Williams. And so that's Eddie Kendricks. Okay, so Melvin Franklin, Eddie Kendricks, David Ruffin, Otis Williams, and Paul Williams. So Eddie Kendricks, allegedly, he dated Diana Ross when the Supremes was called the Primettes. And Melvin Franklin, he had the really deep voice. And David Ruffin, you know, David Ruffin, if you've ever watched that Temptations movie, it is free on YouTube with ads, of course, but it's a really good movie. And, you know, David Ruffin, he had a substance abuse problem. He was very unreliable. He would miss rehearsals and performances. And then there was a time he was so arrogant that he actually they had performed at the Copacabana in New York. And it was such a huge deal because typically the Copa, I guess, was segregated. But his manager had the announcer. Now that was an example of like David Ruffin having like a separate representative from their manager, like what LaToya and LaTavia tried to do. So David Ruffin's representative had the announcer say, David Ruffin says it in the movie. He says after they perform, "I'm David Ruffin and these are the Temptations," you know, putting himself above the rest of the group. Even in the movie, after they kicked him out, which how they did it, they had their manager, was a white man, hand him a letter saying basically like a Shawnee O'Neal, your services are no longer needed. And in the movie, they're all looking at him and his reaction, and he's outside yelling and cursing. Well, even after David Ruffin was kicked out and he was replaced with Dennis Edwards, the Temptations would perform. There was a scene where Dennis Edwards is getting ready to sing the solo parts on Ain't Too Proud to Beg, and David Ruffin comes from backstage with a microphone and he like overpowers him and he sings it. and he's wearing like an old uniform, just totally out of pocket, out of order, out of bounds. Okay. But now, as I'm talking about these different groups, now I can see why it could be a lot. Especially, I bet it's frustrating for the people who were super humble, like what appeared to be Melvin Franklin and Otis. In the movie, at least, they gave very humble energy. Same thing with like a Kelly Rowland from Destiny's Child and Tiny from Escape. They just seem very like the humble ones in the singing group. They're not complaining. They just want to work, and they're not trying to steal anyone's shine or be arrogant. That's gonna be like, oh, what the fuck, when you have like a David Ruffin or a Latasha from Escape just saying, I am above you. That's gotta be nuts. Because before we made it and we were trying to get the record deal, we were trying to get our records played, we were all on the same even field, even tone, or you know what I'm saying? We're all on the same page. So that's gotta be crazy and frustrating to watch people change. But they say that money changes people. Has to be true. So here is the next slide, my last slide, and it is on all of the members of the Temptations. So you have, there was Dennis Edwards who replaced David Ruffin. We talked about that. Then there was an Ollie Woodson, Eldridge Bryant. There's just a ton. There has to be about almost 18 people plus the other 6. So maybe you're talking like at least 25 members of the Temptations. So that is just nuts. All of the original Temptations have passed away with the exception of Otis. So and some of these members have passed away as well. But that does show that, to me, it just seems like this is just business. Can you sing? Are you available to do these tour dates? Do you have a good work ethic? Do you show up on time for rehearsals? Do you have any drug problems? Okay, you're in the group. Like, I feel like it is just business. To me, this is extremely abnormal, right? But I guess it's not, because we saw Destiny's Child has had several members. They've had like about a half a dozen members. Obviously, the Temptations has had about 25 members. Then you have Escape, who's never replaced members. So it's definitely not in black and white. It's all catered to those individuals. But again, us fans, we end up suffering because we enjoy the music. We enjoy the vocal styles that each of them bring to the table. But if they can't get it together, then we have to miss out, right? I would love to hear new music from Escape. I would love to hear new music from 112. But if they break up, they break up. And then I have thought too, like, I'm sure money puts a strain on things. If money can break up marriages, I'm sure if you're in a group with 3 other people, 4 other people, and you have to split money 4 ways, 5 ways, I'm sure that can take a toll. Even Boyz II Men, like, they have broken up. Well, the one who would have the deep speaking voice, he broke away from Boyz II Men. But I figure they made some good money because they sold a lot of records. Boyz II Men, they were like a pop group. So let me know your thoughts on the singing groups, breaking up, not getting along. I do feel like probably what sparks a lot of the conversation is Destiny's Child, the way that Matthew Knowles did everything. It was very corporate. But remember, Matthew Knowles did work for Xerox, I believe in sales for Xerox, the company that makes all of the copy machines, very much 80s and 90s. So I could see him taking a corporate approach, but us fans did not connect with that shadiness at all. So let me know what you think. For those who did pop in, thank you so much for checking out this video. Please hit the like video. It would really help me a lot. Or please send me your feedback, what I could do. Definitely when it comes to content creators, I feel like the best thing that anyone could do is just to be themselves. And, that's all I'm trying to do. But I do enjoy, the researching and the expressing of my opinion on certain things. So definitely let me know what you think. And please share this video on your social media and subscribe. Thanks again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.